Pocket FM.
To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.
In an ordinary karaoke room, Stephen achieved, yet again, another perfect score of 10. Oliver was infuriated, so he personally called for the owner of the karaoke place. "There's something wrong with your equipment." The owner had kept his attention on this group ever since they changed from the VIP room to a regular room. "This is one of the top places in the city to enjoy karaoke. The equipment alone is worth $100,000, and I make sure there are routine inspections to update the system. There's no problems with it. Someone here managed to score 10 points. Are you still going to insist that there's nothing wrong?" "The scores are dependent on the person's singing ability. It has nothing to do with the functionality of the system." The owner's expression hardened. "Are you here to cause trouble?" Oliver quickly denied it. Not just anyone could run a karaoke place as influential as this one. The owner was sure to have an extensive background, and he couldn't afford to make a bad name for himself when the owner could be capable of anything. As such, Oliver lost the bet. Stephen took the liberty of reminding him of what the bet entailed. "I remember you saying that whoever loses the bet will have to pay for tonight's expenses." Oliver was beginning to regret his life decisions. 3 bottles of Chateau Lafite had already exceeded $100,000. But a bet was a bet. He braced himself and went up to the cashier. "How much is it?" "Hello, sir. Your total is $2.05 million, but we'll give you a special discount and charge you $2 million. How much?" he stuttered. $2 million, the cashier repeated. The discount had only subtracted $50,000. Oliver's family was wealthy, but his own funds hadn't reached the point where he could fork over $2 million at a moment's notice. He only received about $10,000 to $20,000 for his monthly living expenses. "Don't have the money?" Stephen asked. "I can pay." Oliver couldn't let that happen. His reputation would take a huge blow. "Who said I don't have the money? I was in a hurry, so I didn't bring that much with me. Here, this is my card. There's $100,000 in it. Pay the remaining $1.9 million. When I get home, I'll wire you the money." Oliver's thought process was simple. First, he would be able to prove to his classmates that he could afford $2 million. And second, he would embarrass Stephen. He highly doubted that Stephen had $1.9 million in pocket change. "All right," Stephen said. He accepted Oliver's card and gave it to the cashier. When the card was swiped, Oliver's phone buzzed with a notification from his bank. That was $100,000 down the drain, and it was a year's worth of pocket money that he had painstakingly saved up. Oliver took back his card. "It's time for you to pay." He couldn't wait for Stephen to make a fool of himself. When Stephen was about to take out his card, the cashier said, "Congratulations. You're the 888,888th customer. According to our policy, you'll only have to pay $1 regardless of how much you spent." Stephen was reminded of the time he pulled a similar trick during Kim's class reunion. But this time, he was genuinely surprised. "So my total is $1? "That's correct," the cashier replied. Stephen thought of their encounter with the 3 thugs from before. The thug who had recognized him was an influential member of Santa Ana's underworld. Since this karaoke place had connections with the underworld, the owner would gladly heed his request. Stephen didn't comment and handed over a $1 bill. He turned around and gave Oliver a shrug. "I paid too." Oliver couldn't believe Stephen's luck. He had spent $100,000 today, but Stephen had gotten away with spending $1. After leaving the building, Amy and Vanessa stared at Stephen like he was someone from another world. Especially Amy. Her impression of him was being reworked with each passing second. "When did you learn how to sing? Your voice was so nice. I thought you were just a freeloader who bummed around at home." "I didn't have anything to do after Kim went to work, so I tried singing a little bit," Stephen explained. Amy scrutinized him, as if she were seeing him in a new light. "You have the potential to be a singer. If you appear on my stream, my popularity will go up. Ever since Stefan quit Aquaria Live, my followers haven't been increasing that much." Stephen turned her down immediately. "I'm not that good at singing. I won the bet against Oliver because of my luck, and I sang Paradise because I only know this one song. He would be in for a bad time if Amy found out that he was Stefan. Vanessa stared at Stephen. She didn't buy it. No one could be that good after singing a little bit in their spare time. Besides that, it didn't make sense for the cashier to waive $1.9 million just because he was the 888,888th customer. Vanessa's interest in him grew. When are you going to divorce Kim? Stephen gave her a confused look. Why are you asking me this? If you ever get divorced, I'll marry you. Don't joke with me. I'm not joking. Amy waved her hands between them and interjected. Hey, did you forget I'm still here? Vanessa, I think of you as a good friend, but you're disappointing me. Are you trying to seduce my brother-in-law? I was just joking, Vanessa said lightly. You're the one who keeps complaining that you and your mom want them to divorce. Don't you want it to happen anymore? When did I complain about that? Vanessa laughed. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. He's your brother-in-law. Why would I make a move on him? But if Stephen and Kim really did get divorced, Vanessa would take the opportunity and propose to him. Feeling the tension in the air, Stephen changed the subject to lighten the mood. Have you two heard about Cloud Walk Restaurant? Amy's eyes lit up. That's the best restaurant in Santa Ana. If you want to have a meal there, you have to make a reservation ahead of time. One meal costs at least $100,000. Even though it's pricey, the location is scenic. While you're eating, you can enjoy a view of the entire city. It'll be like walking on clouds and gazing at the city from above. It's the perfect date spot for couples. Wait, why are you asking about this? You're not thinking of making a reservation, are you? I am, Stephen said. Kim's birthday is in 3 days, so I wanted to make a reservation for a birthday party. From your description, it's exactly the place I was looking for. Vanessa's eyes sparkled. Wow, I wouldn't even dream of eating at such a fancy restaurant. Amy put her hands on her hips. Stephen, you have high standards, but can you afford it? Don't get carried away. You won't get lucky again like what happened at the karaoke place. Vanessa tugged her arm. Come on, Amy, let's go check it out. It's nearby. And who knows, maybe he'll surprise us. Amy reluctantly let herself be pulled along. Cloud Walk Restaurant was located at the top floor of Millennium Plaza, a popular tourist spot. The exterior alone was lavishly decorated, and it exuded a high-class atmosphere. Only the wealthy could afford to dine here. Even the Haynes family would have to think twice before making a reservation. While Amy and Vanessa were admiring the restaurant, a young man in a suit strolled over. Is that you, Amy? The smile slipped off Amy's face at the sound of the familiar voice. Alan, why are you here? To tell you the truth, my family owns this restaurant. Alan glanced at Stephen. Who's this? Stephen was about to introduce himself as her brother-in-law, but Amy interrupted him and said, He's my boyfriend. She linked arms with him and gave him a light pinch to silently communicate for him to play along. It was as clear as day that Alan was interested in Amy, but his feelings were not reciprocated. Stephen had no choice but to smile and keep up the act. Your boyfriend? Alan echoed in disbelief. While the Cassidy family wasn't as wealthy as his own, they were still considered one of the top families in Los Angeles. But Stephen dressed casually, and there was nothing special about him. Alan couldn't understand what Amy saw in him. Yeah, me and my boyfriend were going to dine at your family's restaurant, Amy said. Alan looked doubtful. He's going to pay? Are you sure he can afford it? Amy hesitated, because she really didn't know if Stephen had the money to dine at a fancy restaurant. Everyone has to make a reservation before dining here, but I can give you an opportunity to come in and look at the menu before deciding if you and your boyfriend want to eat here, Alan offered. That's not necessary. I'll make a reservation, Stephen said. Amy thought it over and felt like it was a good idea. It would be better to make sure that Stephen could afford it, instead of embarrassing himself. Let's check out the menu, Stephen. Just as they were about to go inside, Alan stopped them. I'm only giving you this privilege, Amy. Not just anyone can waltz inside my family's restaurant. Amy was reluctant to go in alone. She glanced at Vanessa. Fine, but you won't have any complaints if my friend comes in with me, right? They were classmates, and Vanessa was her friend, so Alan had no reason to refuse. Like Amy had expected, he agreed. Go ahead. But to her surprise, Vanessa was the one who rejected her. I'll wait for you outside. If we leave Stephen alone out here, who knows what Alan will do to him? Vanessa wasn't wrong. Alan was prideful, and he looked down on those who didn't have a strong family background. Okay, I'll be right out, Amy said. She went up to the manager of the restaurant, who led her inside. Sure enough, as soon as Amy went in, Alan started mocking Stephen. Do you think you're worthy of being her boyfriend? I doubt you can afford a single meal here. He stuck out one foot to show off his designer shoes. I can give you a chance, though. I'll give you $100,000. That's enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. In exchange, forget about Amy. This is a golden opportunity, the manager called out. What are you waiting for? $100,000 is worth more than your pride. Alan smirked. Exactly. For someone like you, there's nothing to lose. You're going too far, Alan, Vanessa said in annoyance. His arrogance was getting on her nerves, but at the same time, she was curious as to how Stephen would deal with him. To Vanessa, Stephen was like the protagonist in an action movie, and they always had backup who magically appeared in times of need. But he had told her that he needed to conceal his identity for the time being, so would he really mobilize his subordinates for a trivial situation like this one? The scenes in Vanessa's head did not happen, at least not in the way she'd been imagining them. Rather than action-packed drama, Stephen calmly took out his phone and made a call. Purchase Cloudwalk Restaurant in Santa Ana within 3 minutes. Vanessa was shocked by this plot twist, as expected of a spy who was his own boss. His counterattack was both unexpected and brilliant. Alan laughed at Stephen's absurd demand. Are you crazy? Do you know how much this restaurant is worth? $100 million. Even if you did have that much money, this isn't a place you can purchase just because you want to. Regardless of how arrogant Alan was, his logic was reasonable. No matter how wealthy someone was, how could they purchase a high-end restaurant worth $100 million in the span of 3 minutes? Unless Stephen was a billionaire. To Vanessa and Alan's surprise, in less than 3 minutes, a man in a suit holding a leather briefcase stepped out of the elevator. He greeted Stephen respectfully and introduced himself as a lawyer. This is a contract for ownership of Cloudwalk Restaurant. Once you sign, this restaurant will belong to you. Stephen took the contract and signed his name with a wave of his hand. Alan sneered at the ridiculous scene. Where did you find this guy to pretend to be a lawyer? He was interrupted when his phone vibrated with an incoming message. There was a link to an article with the headline, Mysterious Tycoon Purchases Cloudwalk Restaurant. Did Stephen really purchase his family's restaurant? Alan's phone rang. His father was calling. Before he could even greet him, his father started cursing at him. Stop fooling around outside. Who did you provoke out there? Thanks to you, Cloudwalk Restaurant isn't ours anymore. Hurry up and come home. Only now did Alan truly believe that Stephen had bought the restaurant. A grand, high-end restaurant with a market value of $100 million had undergone a change in ownership within 3 minutes. This was terrifying. From now on, this restaurant is mine, Stephen said. Of course, if you lick my shoes, I could consider letting you stay for 1 more minute. Alan paled. No need, I'll get lost right now. He didn't waste a second and ran to the elevator. Stephen glanced at the manager who had mocked him earlier. You're fired, he gestured to the receptionist standing near the door. You may take over as manager. The receptionist was thrilled at the sudden promotion. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Oh, right. Don't say anything about having a new boss to the girl inside. Other than you, the current staff will remain in their current positions. Understood. Do you have any other instructions? In 3 days, I want to hold a birthday party here. Make arrangements for me. As for the rest, I'll let you know at a later date. Also, don't reveal my identity to anyone. When I come, treat me like a guest." The new manager was quick on the uptake and easily settled into his new position. "I understand. Sir, please follow me to make a reservation." As the top restaurant in Santa Ana, Cloudwalk Restaurant required reservations. Each meal could easily surpass $500,000. VIPs would receive a black card that came with various privileges. Vanessa was even more curious about Steven's identity. He had purchased Cloudwalk Restaurant with a simple phone call. It was satisfying to see Alan get knocked off his high horse. And Vanessa, who was acquainted with Steven, felt a sense of pride. Amy was standing to the side, looking over the menu. She raised her head when Steven and Vanessa came in. "Did Alan agree to let you in?" "Yeah, we managed to convince him," Steven said. His serious tone made Vanessa want to laugh. She desperately wanted to tell Amy the truth, but she resisted the urge. "All right, I've been looking around, and this restaurant is a great place to celebrate Kim's birthday. But it's too expensive. One serving of soup costs more than $10,000. I think Alan's right. We can't afford to dine here. Let's find somewhere else." "We're already here. Don't worry about the reservation." Steven gestured to the newly appointed manager. "This is the manager. He'll take care of it." Amy was at a loss for words when the manager swiftly completed the reservation and returned a VIP black card to Steven. "Wow, it looks like you spent a lot to prepare for my sister's birthday." Although Amy never liked the fact that Steven was a freeloader, she was moved by his willingness to spend this much money to celebrate Kim's birthday. "Now that the venue has been taken care of, it's time to choose a birthday present for Kim," Steven said. After witnessing what he was capable of, Vanessa just knew that he would prepare a luxurious present for Kim. "What do you have in mind?" Amy asked. Steven gave her a mysterious smile. "You'll know when we get there." They hailed a taxi to their destination. On the way, Amy kept thinking about Alan and the restaurant. The more she thought about it, the more she felt like something wasn't right. Amy was aware of Alan's feelings for her. That was why she'd introduced Steven as her boyfriend to make him give up on her. Why would Alan, who saw Steven as his rival in love, let him inside the restaurant? Had Alan made some unreasonable demands like forcing Steven to break up with her in exchange for a reservation? Did her brother-in-law really betray her? Amy was furious and decided she needed to have a talk with Alan. She would never agree to go out with him. Amy asked the driver to pull over and open the door. "Where are you going?" Vanessa asked. "I suddenly remembered that I have something important to do, so I can't pick out a present with you guys." "Really? That's a shame. I was hoping we could hang out together." Despite the disappointment in her voice, Vanessa was excited. If Amy wasn't there, Steven wouldn't have to be so reserved about his identity, and she would have more chances to find out who he really was. Steven thought Amy was acting a little strange, but he didn't question her. "Okay, be careful. You're not familiar with this city." After Amy left, it wasn't long before they arrived in front of a real estate company. This company was different from typical real estate companies. They only sold mansions and villas. The starting price was in the millions, and only the filthy rich could afford to purchase one. "Are we here to buy a house?" Vanessa asked incredulously. "Yes. Kim's the vice president of Haynes Industries. She'll have to commute from Los Angeles to Santa Ana on a regular basis, and it won't be convenient to stay at the Haynes family's house every time. I decided to buy a villa for her so she could have a comfortable place to stay whenever she comes here for work." So that's how it is. Vanessa felt a little envious of Kim as she followed Steven into the building. He greeted one of the real estate agents and asked her to introduce the villas they had for sale. The real estate agent took one look at his outfit and deemed him an unworthy customer. "Are you sure? Sir, we offer the best houses in the city, and the cheapest we have costs over $10 million. You can't afford it." Steven didn't resemble the typical wealthy customer who visited their company. As a matter of fact, the girl next to him fit the bill more than he did. The real estate agent had met countless wealthy customers, so she didn't want to waste her time. Stephen frowned. How would you know that? Get your manager. I want to speak to them. It's obvious. You came here by cab because you couldn't afford a car. Someone like you won't be able to afford a villa here. There's another real estate company 10 minutes away. They offer more affordable residential apartments. The down payment is only $20,000, and you can repay your loan slowly. You should head over and find a house there. Although the real estate agent was recommending another company nearby, she didn't think too much of it. Their own company's down payment was around $200,000. A company that sold residential complexes wasn't worth paying attention to. The manager heard their dispute and came out of her office. She was surprised when she saw Stephen. He looked in her direction and was similarly surprised. In the past, the priest had made arrangements for Stephen to study at a school. The manager of this company, Priscilla, was one of his classmates. She was interested in him because of his good grades and handsome looks, but no matter how much she chased after him, he was indifferent. The real estate agent informed her manager that Stephen and Vanessa were disrupting business. We're here to purchase a house. Is this how you treat your customers? Vanessa snapped. The real estate agent retorted, You obviously can't afford it, but you still insisted on seeing our best villas. If this isn't disrupting business, then what is it? Priscilla turned back to Stephen. I understand the situation. Stephen, how have you been doing these past few years? Me? There's nothing much to say. I don't have a stable job, and my wife works as a company executive. Compared to Stephen, Priscilla was living a much better life, and she was proud to tell him all about it. After I graduated, I moved to Santa Ana. I chased after you when we were still in school, but we never ended up working out. But that wasn't something worth getting sad over, so I left Los Angeles for a new beginning. I found a job here and worked hard. I was recently promoted to sales manager. Oh yeah, I also met my husband in this city. He's also a company executive. His annual salary is several million. I didn't expect to run into you today. It made me remember the good old days. Priscilla was casually explaining what she had been up to after graduating, but the underlying meaning behind her words didn't go unnoticed. Her message was clear. I liked you back then, but you never gave me a chance. See how far I've gotten? You can't even match up to me anymore. Do you regret not returning my feelings? Without giving Stephen a chance to comment, Priscilla changed the topic. I've heard about you here and there. You married into the Cassidy family, but your situation doesn't look too good. Did you get your wife's permission to buy a house here? The Cassidy family is wealthy to some extent, but our cheapest villa costs $10 million. I'm not sure that they can afford that. I'm using my own money, Stephen said. My wife's birthday is coming up in 3 days, and I wanted to buy a house for her as a birthday present. Priscilla couldn't help but laugh. Your own money? It's been many years since we've last met, but it seems you've developed a skill for lying. But if you really do want to see our houses, I can show you around. The real estate agent knew that Priscilla was offering to take Stephen to the villas and show him around out of consideration for their past connection as classmates. Only someone from a rich and powerful family could buy a villa that was worth more than $10 million. As for Stephen, he was merely a useless son-in-law of the Cassidy family. Vanessa was the only person in the room who knew that Stephen had the means to purchase their villas. He wasn't your typical well-off spy. I told you, I'm here to buy a villa, Stephen said. How about you introduce the most expensive villa first, and if I like it, I'll sign the contract on the spot. Priscilla didn't take his words seriously, but she agreed to his request. Our best villa is Riverview Villa, and it costs $30 million. It's located near a beautiful park and a river. The location is convenient because there are schools, hospitals, supermarkets, and so on in the vicinity. You'll have a scenic view of the river in your very own living room. The villa comes with its own living facilities to make your everyday life more comfortable. We'll also provide security services. Priscilla exhaled and paused after giving a lengthy explanation in one breath. Then she continued. What do you think? Would you like to take a look for yourself? Usually, you would have to make an appointment in advance and pay a 1 million deposit. As you know, rich people have an obsession with cleanliness. The fewer the visitors, the better. But since we used to be classmates, I can make an exception for you. The real estate agent was a bit nervous because if Stephen really did visit and broke or stained something, he wouldn't be able to afford it. Who would pay for the damages? She was relieved when Stephen dismissed Priscilla's offer. There's no need to take a look. Your explanation was very detailed, and I can see why the villa is so expensive. Besides, after I buy it, I can inspect it as much as I want later on. Did you say it was 30 million? Stephen's serious expression almost made Priscilla laugh out loud. Do you like pretending to be rich? Okay, I'll play along. Vanessa scoffed. Pretending to be rich? Priscilla probably had no idea that the man in front of her was loaded. Vanessa decided not to refute her. She wanted to see how Stephen would handle this. For mortgage loans, you'll need to pay 30% as down payment, which is $9 million. The rest will be paid by the bank. The monthly property fees are $140,000. To be frank, even if my husband and I were to combine our savings, we wouldn't come close to purchasing this villa. While Priscilla was explaining, she was confused by the look on Stephen's face. When did I say I wanted to take out a loan? I'll pay all of it right now. Stephen reached into his pocket and took out a bank card. He gave it to Priscilla. Prepare the contract and use my card for the payment. The other real estate agents were watching them closely, and they were criticizing Stephen in hushed whispers. Priscilla scanned Stephen's face for any hint of deceit, but there was none. He was too serious to be playing a joke on her. She immediately changed her attitude. Please wait a moment. She took Stephen's card and went into her office. When Priscilla checked the balance on his card, she was stunned by the number of zeros displayed on the screen. His balance was in the trillions. This was insanity. The richest person in the United States might not even be worth mentioning in the face of someone like Stephen. The enormous cost of $30 million for a villa was like a drop in the ocean for Stephen's bank account. Priscilla's hand, which was holding the card, trembled as she pulled out a contract from her drawer. She took a deep breath to compose herself before walking back to Stephen. Priscilla respectfully handed over the contract. Mr. Adams, this is the contract for the villa. After you sign it, you may move in whenever you want. The crowd of real estate agents looked on with excitement. This was the most expensive villa their company was selling. Priscilla would be able to earn over $1 million from the commission alone. Who would have thought that Stephen, who dressed in dirt-cheap clothing, would have the money to pay for a $30 million villa and pay in full up front? The real estate agent who Stephen had gone to first asked her colleague if he really paid the $30 million. Her colleague confirmed it. When Priscilla swiped Stephen's card in the office, she had followed her and witnessed the transaction with her very own eyes. The real estate agent regretted ever looking down on Stephen. If she'd listened to him and introduced the villas like he had asked, the $1 million commission would have been hers. When Stephen picked up the pen to sign the contract, an idea crossed his mind. He waved for Vanessa to come over. You should sign instead of me. Vanessa was in disbelief. You want me to sign my name? If I do that, then I'll be the owner of the villa. She couldn't understand what he was thinking. Was he planning on divorcing Kim and marrying her instead? Did he purchase the villa to express his feelings for her? Wasn't the relationship progressing way too fast? I was planning on having my wife sign the contract, but she was recently promoted, so she's really busy these days. In any case, she has to travel back and forth from Los Angeles to Santa Ana, so this villa will be like a vacation home for her. I wanted to buy her a place so she could work and relax comfortably. If Amy were here, I would have asked her to sign it. But since she's not, let's have your name on the contract. When my wife and I aren't here and you and Amy decide to visit Santa Ana, you can stay here anytime you want. Vanessa was disappointed that she had guessed incorrectly. Stephen's heart hadn't changed. More importantly, it was a little scary that he was willing to hand over a $30 million villa to an acquaintance he'd only known for a few days. How much money did Stephen really have? Stephen's casual purchase of the fanciest villa changed Priscilla's opinion of him. He had simply handed over a card with a balance in the trillions like he was shopping for groceries, and he was now asking his friends to sign her name on the contract. He was even considering this villa to be a vacation home for a short stay in the city. Priscilla had a feeling that she actually didn't know anything about the world of the wealthy. Her previous attitude towards Stephen was laughable. She'd been looking down at him, but she was never in a position to do so. If anything, it should be him looking down on her. Even though Priscilla had made a profit of more than $1 million through his transaction, she felt like she'd missed out on several $100 million. "I'll leave the rest to you," Stephen said. Purchasing the villa was easy, but the work that came after was cumbersome. While the real estate company would handle a good chunk of it, the owner still had to spend quite some time managing the rest. This was one of the main reasons Stephen had asked Vanessa to sign her name on the contract. Vanessa nodded seriously. "Don't worry, I'll take care of your house." Was she really going to become the owner of a villa worth $30 million? It was hard to believe, but even though her name was on the papers, Stephen had enough influence to change the owner whenever he wanted. As for the matter of Stephen's account balance, Priscilla and the other employees knew better than to run their mouths. They wouldn't breathe a single word to anyone. For someone as rich as Stephen, who wanted to keep a low profile, letting his wealth slip would mean ruining their own life. Meanwhile, Amy was trying to get a hold of Alan, but his phone was turned off. It wasn't easy for her to find his address, but when she got there, she was told that the house had been sold and the owner had already moved. Amy was beginning to feel like she'd wasted her time until she ran into Alan at a car center. He was selling his. He'd purchased this car for several $100,000, but he was selling it at a much lower price. His car was brand new, and he'd only driven it for a few days. When Alan turned around and saw Amy, he pretended he didn't see her. After the incident in front of the restaurant, he'd found out that she was Stephen's sister-in-law, not her boyfriend. And Stephen was the big shot who had made his family go bankrupt in an instant. Amy stepped in front of him with a righteous expression. "Stop right there! My brother-in-law was able to make a reservation at Cloud Walk Restaurant. Was that because of you?" Alan looked at her nervously, but he didn't respond. Amy took his silence as confirmation. "I don't care what you forced him to agree to in exchange for the reservation, but I don't have feelings for you, and I won't go out with you. Don't think that just because you gave away some of your money to my brother-in-law or threatened him to go along with your ridiculous demands that I'll agree to date you." "Don't worry, I won't bother you anymore," Alan promised. Stephen was someone who could ruin his family in a matter of 3 minutes. He wouldn't have the courage to chase after his sister-in-law again. "Good. Also, stop mocking my brother-in-law," Amy said. Alan wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I wouldn't dare." How could he mock someone like Stephen after what happened today? That was asking for. On the way back, Amy was mulling over her conversation with Alan. That had gone more smoothly than she'd expected. His attitude had been strange, but she couldn't figure out why he was acting like that. 2 days passed by peacefully. Today was Kim's birthday. Linda and her husband escorted the members of the Bellows family to Natalie's room early in the morning. Linda pulled Natalie and Kim towards them. "Let me introduce you. This is Jonathan Bellows, and these two are his parents." Natalie was impressed by their elegant mannerisms and returned their greeting with a face full of smiles. She nudged Kim with her arm. "Why aren't you saying hello?" Kim whispered in exasperation. "Mom, Stephen is literally in the other room. Why are you introducing these people to me?" "What's wrong with that?" Linda asked. "Stephen isn't worthy of you. You'll get a divorce sooner or later anyway. We're just speeding things up for you." "Exactly," Linda's husband agreed. "Only a talented young man like Mr. Jonathan is worthy of being your husband. You two are a perfect match." Jonathan extended his hand. "Hello, Miss Kim. I'm Jonathan." Kim had no choice but to shake hands with him. Stephen came out of his room and noticed them crowding in the living room. "We were having guests today? It's so lively this early in the morning." "I'm going to be frank with you, Stephen," Natalie said. "This is Jonathan Bellows, Kim's blind date. It's her birthday today, so Jonathan and his parents came to celebrate with us." Stephen leveled them with a sharp gaze. "So you've been planning this for a while? You wanted to introduce him to Kim on her birthday?" Kim quickly tried to clear up the misunderstanding. "Stephen, I really didn't know about this." Linda pulled Kim back. "You don't have to explain yourself to him. A freeloader like him isn't worthy of being the husband of Haynes Industries' vice president. Mr. Jonathan is from a wealthy family in Santa Ana. It would be beneficial for us if you marry him. You don't have to feel bad. Look at Stephen. Besides cooking and doing laundry, what else can he do? Kim, we're doing this for your own good." "Mr. Jonathan doesn't mind that you're married," Linda's husband added. "He came all the way here with his parents. Having a conversation with them is the least you could do." Kim was rendered speechless by their utter lack of regard for Stephen. She glanced at him, hoping for him to speak up for himself. But to her disappointment, he just stood there. Could it be that Stephen felt inferior? On the surface, Jonathan was an outstanding individual, and he came from a wealthy family. Maybe Stephen felt like he couldn't compete with someone like him. Noticing Kim's reluctance, Jonathan spoke up. "I made a reservation at the Capitol Hotel for your birthday. Why don't we head over and celebrate?" Linda was excited at the mention of the Capitol Hotel. She tugged Natalie's arm. "Did you hear that? Mr. Jonathan prepared a celebration for Kim at the Capitol Hotel. That's the only 5-star hotel in Santa Ana. I heard the restaurant has 3 Michelin stars." Natalie was filled with pride. Jonathan was willing to go this far for Kim's birthday. She turned to Kim. "You heard what he said, right? He's showing his interest in you." "What a coincidence," Stephen interjected. "I also made a reservation for Kim's birthday." Kim couldn't help but feel happy that he'd remembered her birthday. He hadn't mentioned it until now, so she thought he'd forgotten. Natalie gave him a doubtful look. "You did? Where did you make a reservation?" Jonathan could tell that almost everyone here was on his side. If his future mother-in-law was rooting for him and Kim to work out, wasn't their marriage guaranteed to happen? Kim was pretty in the picture that Linda's husband had sent him, but she was beautiful in person. "I made a reservation at Cloud Walk Restaurant," Stephen replied. Jonathan crossed his arms. "Are you joking? Do you know what kind of restaurant that is?" The reservation he'd made at the Capitol Hotel couldn't be compared with Cloud Walk Restaurant. He was a member of the Bellows family, but he could count on one hand the number of times he'd eaten there. Even if they did have the money to dine there regularly, making a reservation was difficult. Only customers who'd spent more than $5 million would receive a VIP black card, and one of their privileges was the exemption of a reservation. It wasn't just the Bellows family who was hesitant to spend $5 million for a simple meal outside. There weren't many in the city who could afford it. "Of course I know," Stephen said with a smile. "It's the most luxurious restaurant in the city. If you want to dine there, you'll have to make a reservation 3 days in advance. Their ingredients and services are top-notch, and one meal could cost more than $50,000. "It's good that you know," Linda's husband said. "Young people love to brag. Let's stop wasting time and have a meal at the Capitol Hotel with Mr. Jonathan and his parents." An idea popped in Jonathan's mind. "Hold on. Stephen said he made a reservation for Kim's birthday, so we have to go. We can't let his money go to waste." Jonathan looked at Linda and her husband meaningfully. How could they not understand the implication behind his suggestion? Linda's husband promptly played along with him. "Mr. Jonathan's right. It's not every day we get to dine at Cloud Walk Restaurant. We should take him up on his considerate offer." Kim knew that they were doing this to embarrass Stephen. But recently, everything that he said, no matter how crazy, always ended up being the truth. She believed in him. Since everyone was in agreement, Jonathan drove them to the Millennial Plaza in his. Amy and Vanessa tagged along. At the restaurant's entrance, Jonathan pretended like he suddenly remembered something. I heard that customers who spend $5 million for one meal receive a VIP card. Do you have one, Steven? Yeah, here it is. Steven took out his VIP black card. Jonathan barely glanced at it. Isn't that fake? His own family was fairly wealthy, but even they hadn't been able to get one of those cards. It's not too late, Linda's husband said. We can turn around and leave before he's exposed. Yeah, let's get out of here, Linda agreed. Even if he doesn't think it's embarrassing, I think it's embarrassing. Kim pulled Steven aside. Are you sure you know what you're doing? How could I not? They'll know soon whether I'm telling the truth or not. He held her hand and led her inside. The staff were aware that Steven was the new owner of the restaurant, but they had been instructed to keep quiet. It was only when Steven took out his VIP card that the receptionist welcomed him. Linda, her husband, and Jonathan were shocked. The card was real. This was Amy and Vanessa's second time at this restaurant, but they were still very excited. Steven turned to Kim with a bright smile. Kim, it's your birthday today, and I've prepared a surprise for you. Come with me. Kim was a little dazed as she scanned the luxurious furnishings. Steven had really made a reservation at this fancy restaurant for her birthday. She didn't know what to expect as Steven led her further inside. Besides their family and the staff, no one else was here. A dining table came into view. A red carpet extended from where they stood to the table. 5 waiters stood nearby, holding bouquets of flowers. Happy birthday, Miss Kim, they said in unison. Kim stepped onto the red carpet, feeling like a celebrity at the center of attention. She slowly made her way to the table next to the window. Music filled the room. A violinist on stage began his performance of Happy Birthday. Steven clapped, and fireworks sounded outside the building. They lit up the sky despite the glare of the sun. When the fireworks reached the sky, they formed the words, Happy Birthday, Kim, before disappearing in a scattering of sparks. This spectacular view was visible to the entire city of Santa Ana. Your brother-in-law is so romantic, Vanessa said. Even Amy, who was usually dissatisfied with Steven's empty promises, was impressed by what he'd prepared. Steven snapped his fingers, and a waiter came over with a bouquet of 999 roses. Steven took the bouquet and held it out to Kim. Happy birthday, Kim. Kim was touched. She reached out to accept the bouquet. Thank you, Steven. Even though they had been married for 3 years, their relationship was anything but romantic. Every girl yearned for a heart-fluttering romance, and she was no exception. Kim was blown away by Steven's surprise. It was everything she'd wanted for her birthday. It was clear that Jonathan was outclassed. He wouldn't have been able to afford making all these lavish arrangements at this restaurant. Jonathan sent his secretary a message instructing him to investigate Steven. As someone from the Bellows family, it wasn't hard to obtain his information. I was wondering how that freeloader managed to make a reservation here. It turns out that this restaurant belongs to Amy's university classmate. He's interested in her, so technically, it's Amy who made this possible. Linda, her husband, and Natalie gave Steven disapproving looks. Amy was disappointed in him, so he really had come to some kind of agreement with Alan. Steven, I get that you wanted to celebrate Kim's birthday, but please don't use me to make a deal in the future, okay? Vanessa wanted to defend him, but she stopped when Steven subtly shook his head. Jonathan felt proud of himself for turning the tables. Let's forget about that for now. A birthday party isn't complete without gifts. Kim, I've prepared a present for you. He took out a brocade box and opened it. A beautiful necklace was inside. Linda instantly recognized it. That's the limited edition Tears of Cartier necklace. There were only 10,000 of them made, and it's crazy expensive. Only the rich can afford it. Jonathan was satisfied with Linda's introduction of his gift. He closed the distance between him and Kim. I'll put it on for you. Kim took a step back. I'm grateful, but this necklace is too expensive. I can't accept it. Steven cleared his throat. Mr. Jonathan, did you forget that I'm still here? Jonathan glanced at him. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about you. It's your wife's birthday today. What gift did you prepare for her? It's not convenient for me to walk around with it, Stephen said indifferently. Cartier's tears was a precious necklace, but the Moon of the Nile was worth more. Is it inconvenient, or does it not exist? Jonathan mocked. Or are you making up an excuse because you were ashamed of your gift after seeing mine? It's all right. You can take it out. It's your gift. We won't laugh at you. Seeing that Kim was looking forward to it, Stephen decided to be upfront. I bought Riverview Villa for her. Jonathan and his parents shook their heads. You must be joking. Stephen, watch what you say, Linda's husband reprimanded. It's fine if you talk nonsense at home, but we're in public right now. Not just anyone can buy Riverview Villa. Natalie, your son-in-law hasn't changed at all since Mom's birthday, Linda said. He and Mr. Jonathan are as different as the sky and the earth. Natalie glared at Stephen. She couldn't wait to go back to Los Angeles and submit the divorce papers. Vanessa cut in and spoke up for him. Who said Stephen was lying? I can prove that he bought a house for Kim. Were you there? Did you see him buy it? Jonathan demanded. That's right. I went with him. Vanessa, what are you talking about? Amy asked with a sigh. Our family issues are messy enough as it is. My brother-in-law loves to boast. It's nothing new. I'm defending him for a reason. Listen to me. Just as Vanessa was about to explain everything to Amy, Stephen took a key card and gave it to Kim. Her name was displayed across the front, along with the eye-catching words, Riverview Villa. Even though Vanessa had signed the contract, Stephen was still the real owner. It wasn't hard for him to get the real estate company to make a personalized key card for Kim. Kim was pleasantly surprised, but she was also a little doubtful. I heard this house costs $30 million. Not even Mom's family can afford it. Where did all this money come from? Jonathan refused to believe it. That's impossible. Forget about buying it. Even if he wanted to rent it, he still wouldn't have enough. Riverview Villa was simply too expensive. It was meant to be out of reach and gazed upon from a distance, never to be sold. With Jonathan's family's background in Santa Ana, it was an easy task to find out who purchased the villa. After making a few calls, Jonathan got his answer. To think I was almost fooled by your eloquent words. For a minute, I really thought you bought the villa. What do you mean? Linda's husband asked. I just asked around. Stephen didn't buy Riverview Villa. Want to take a guess as to who the real owner is? Everyone exchanged confused glances. Jonathan pointed at Vanessa and smiled. She's the owner. 3 days ago, Miss Vanessa dropped $30 million and bought the villa. She even swiped her card on the spot. He looked at Vanessa with a burning gaze. Rather than Kim, she was the real catch. Amy turned to Vanessa in disbelief. So you're the one who bought it. I didn't know you were that rich to spend $30 million in one go. If it weren't for Mr. Jonathan, I don't know when I would have found out. How long were you planning to hide this from me? Vanessa was at a loss. The situation had taken a wild turn, and she had no idea how to clarify the misunderstanding. She really wanted to tell Amy that she came from an ordinary family and that she wasn't insanely rich. It was Stephen who'd paid the $30 million. Linda's husband was beginning to understand. That has to be it. Stephen found out that Vanessa's from a rich family. So after she purchased the villa, he tried to take credit for it by shamelessly asking her to rent it out to him at a low price. Vanessa probably couldn't refuse because he's Amy's brother-in-law. His words were enough to convince everyone in the restaurant. Kim stepped forward to salvage Stephen's reputation. It's the thought that counts. I'm satisfied with Stephen's gifts. It doesn't matter whether it was him or Vanessa who bought the villa. Vanessa had no choice but to go along with the misunderstanding because she couldn't reveal Stephen's identity. I'm glad you see it that way. Stephen really cares about you. He knew that you would come back to Santa Ana often for work, and it would be inconvenient to stay at your mom's parents' house every time. That's why he asked me to rent out the house so that you could have a comfortable stay whenever you come. Thank you, Vanessa. You're very kind. I appreciate it. I promise I'll take good care of your house. Also, please be generous when charging Stephen for rent. Vanessa glanced at Stephen. Oh, you won't have to worry about that. He can definitely afford it. Afterwards, everyone enjoyed a delicious meal at the restaurant. Jonathan's attitude had taken a 180-degree turn. He started treating Kim coldly and shifted his focus to Vanessa. In his eyes, the only thing Kim had going for her was her beauty and a family who couldn't match up to the Bellows family. But Vanessa was both pretty and extremely rich. She was the perfect partner. It was all too obvious that Vanessa was avoiding Jonathan's advances, but he didn't care. He was thick-skinned and kept trying to get close to her. Kim was satisfied with everything that Stephen had prepared for her birthday. On the other hand, Linda and her husband's moods couldn't be any different. Watching Jonathan pursue Vanessa, they knew immediately that their plan to get Kim to divorce Stephen and marry Jonathan had failed. When Linda and her husband went home, they were surrounded and bombarded with questions. Linda's husband gritted his teeth. The blind date failed. I don't know what kind of luck Stephen has. He met someone from a rich family as soon as he stepped out of the house. Jonathan's taken an interest in her, and he doesn't care about Kim anymore. Kim has only recently become the vice president, but she's already gaining authority, Gordon said. Stephen gave her a nice house of her own and even celebrated her birthday at Cloud Walk Restaurant. If we let this continue, what will happen to us? We can't let them keep acting like this, Mavis agreed. It won't be long before Natalie and her family kick us to the curb. We have to think of a way to stop them. A thought crossed Kelly's husband's mind. I have an idea, but I'm not sure if you'll agree. It might be going overboard. Mavis was impatient. If you have any ideas, just spit them out. Why are you being so reserved at a time like this? We need to take care of this as soon as possible. It doesn't matter how far we have to go. All right, it's like this. Kim was Haynes Industries' representative. She won the competition at the Eastern Sea Group's event and was chosen to be their business partner. I don't know what strings she pulled to come out on top, but none of us have any part of it. Gordon waved his hand. We all know that. Get to the point. Kim will have to stay in Santa Ana to oversee the construction of the 5-star hotel. As for us, we can't just sit by and watch her reap the benefits. So, Kelly's husband lowered his voice. Why don't we hire someone to destroy the construction site? Think about it. It takes money to build a hotel, and construction workers have to be hired. We can use this to our advantage. Once rumors are spread and the project gets a bad rep, do you think Mr. Stein or Mr. Pollard will continue to trust Kim with this hotel? Linda's husband clapped his hands. That's not a bad idea. Why didn't I think of that? Because you work in the government. You wouldn't pull tricks like these, Kelly's husband said, grinning widely. But we can't do this ourselves, Megan's husband pointed out. Of course not. We'll be exposed right from the start. That's why we need outside help. I asked a man named Sergio for assistance. Gianna's husband recognized the name. Are you talking about Sergio from the underworld? Yes, he's well known in Santa Ana. His group is rowdy, and they can kill without batting an eye. Even the police can't get them under control. With their help, the construction of the hotel won't go smoothly. But there's one problem. They're asking for quite a bit of money. Kelly and I don't have enough, so we would like to ask all of you to chip in. If we manage to kick Kim and Stephen out of the Haynes family, we'll have Haynes Industries to ourselves. The rest of them weren't thrilled that they had to spend money, but when they thought about Natalie's family and how they didn't deserve a position in the company, they gritted their teeth and gathered the money. Then they waited for Sergio to make his move. After becoming the vice president of Haynes Industries, Kim's main focus was on the construction of the 5-star hotel. The city considered this an important project, and the estimated time to completion wasn't that far off. Kim would have to stay in Santa Ana for the duration of the project and personally oversee the construction. Kim was thankful for the Riverview villa. After moving in, she no longer had to deal with the contemptuous glances and remarks from the Haynes family. It was much more peaceful without them around. After a few more days of vacationing in Santa Ana, Amy and Vanessa packed their bags and returned to school. Kim busied herself with the hotel's construction, while Stephen prepared meals and did laundry as usual. As the days passed, Natalie became even more dissatisfied with Stephen. If Kim and Jonathan had worked out, she would have had an assistant to help her with her work, and she wouldn't be so tired all the time. Today was like any other day. Kim was working at home, while Stephen was getting ready to go out. After he left the house to buy groceries, Kim received a call from the manager of the construction site.
Miss Kim, something happened at the site. Please come over as soon as you can.
Kim had a bad feeling about this. She grabbed her handbag and hailed a cab to the construction site. When she arrived, there was a group of people surrounding the site. They were holding what appeared to be tools, and they gave off a menacing aura. "What's going on?" Kim asked the manager. Before he could respond, a brawny man noticed them and went over. Up close, Kim could see a tattoo on his chest peeking out of his shirt. The man looked down at her. "Are you the one in charge? Look, we were hired to demolish whatever was here so that your company, Haynes Industries, could build a hotel. We did our job, but we haven't received compensation for our work. If you don't hand it over by today, you can forget about building the hotel." Are you referring to the demolition fee? That should be from the Eastern Sea Group, not Haynes Industries. You should ask them instead of us.
I don't care. We're here for the money. All we know is that whoever works here will have some ways of getting it.
Let me check with the Eastern Sea Group. Kim stepped to the side to make a call. After receiving the information, she went back to the man. They said they've already sent you the demolition fee.
The man shrugged. Maybe they have, but we don't think it's enough. You guys are doing construction here, so you should compensate us.
That's not our responsibility, Kim said firmly. If you guys don't leave, I'll call the police.
Sure, go ahead and report us. We're not doing anything wrong. We're just here to defend our rights. When the police come, do you think they'll side with you or us?
The man wasn't afraid of the police because his boss, Sergio, had secretly gotten in contact with them. The police would take their side. The manager whispered, Miss Kim, you can't call the police. Look at them. It's clear that they're not above violence. If the police come, they might leave for today and come back another time to get back at us. Then what should we do? Kim asked. The construction couldn't be delayed. Otherwise, they would be behind schedule. Let's ask them how much they want, the manager suggested. If Haynes Industries has money to spare, it'll be better to compensate them than ruin the schedule. This is an important project. All right, that's all we can do for now. Kim turned to the man. How much do you want?
Not much.
The man held up a hand, indicating 5 of his fingers. 500,000? Kim asked. That was a reasonable amount that Haynes Industries could afford. The man pointed to the group of people behind him.
Miss Kim, are you making fun of us? Do you see them? We're here to make a living, and every single one of them has to be compensated fairly.
It was obvious to Kim that the amount she suggested was too low for them. Then tell me how much you want. The man grinned.
50 million.
50 million? That's ridiculous. Our company will never approve, Kim said.
You expect me to believe that? The man with the tattoo asked. Haynes Industries has taken on projects that were worth several hundred million before. 50 million is nothing to them. Anyway, that's not the point. If you don't want us to stand here every day, then give us the compensation we're asking for. Otherwise, don't even think about building the hotel.
The manager of the construction site whispered anxiously, Miss Kim, what should we do? If the construction was delayed, none of the workers would be paid. It was the same as having no income. It was understandable that the manager was concerned. But the group who had been responsible for the demolition were clearly hoodlums. This wasn't a situation that could be handled so easily. Tell the workers to take a break. I'll think of a way to deal with the demolition group. $50 million isn't a small sum. I'll have to discuss this with the company. Kim tried her best to reassure the manager. Don't worry, we won't be held up for long. The man with the tattoo didn't stop her from leaving. Instead, he called out to her. Miss Kim, please send $50 million as soon as possible. It would be best if we were compensated within 3 days. If it's beyond that, I can't guarantee what my colleagues will do to your construction site. When Kim returned to Riverview Villa, Stephen wasn't back yet. She told Natalie what happened, but neither of them had a solution. What if I spoke to Grandpa about this? The Eastern Sea Group's 5-star hotel project had left the construction work to Haynes Industries, and now the project was at risk of being delayed. As the CEO of Haynes Industries, Gordon wouldn't let things be. I doubt he'll lend a hand, Natalie said. You've officially become the vice president of Haynes Industries, but you're personally in charge of the project. Your grandpa, grandma, and my sisters and their families won't get anything out of it. They won't help you. They might even tell you to give up your position with the excuse that you're not competent enough to take charge of an important project. Kim leaned back on the couch and stared at the ceiling, hoping that a solution would come to her. What if I ask Stephen? Maybe he'll be able to do something about this. Natalie rolled her eyes. And what exactly are you expecting him to do? He relied on cheap tricks to throw a surprise party for you. Would someone like him have any good ideas? Kim fell silent. If we really can't come up with anything, I'll have to go to the bank and see if I can get a loan. We have to take care of this soon. 1 hour later, Stephen returned home from grocery shopping and prepared lunch. While they were eating at the dining table, he sensed the tension in the atmosphere and noticed the worried look on Kim's face. When Stephen asked her if something had happened, she said she was fine. After lunch, Kim left the house in a hurry. Stephen decided to give Jack a call, asking him to find out what happened. It didn't take Jack long to get back to him. Apparently, a prominent figure in Santa Ana's underworld named Sergio had instructed his subordinates to surround the construction site. Stephen made another call, this time to Captain Floyd. He asked him to send the special forces to the construction site where the hotel would be built. Captain Floyd was thrilled to have an opportunity to carry out a mission under Stephen's orders. He mobilized the special forces in less than a minute and headed to the site. At the same time, the man with the tattoo wasn't sitting around and doing anything either. He had instructed one of his underlings to follow Kim and keep an eye on her. When the underling saw Kim entering a bank, he informed his boss that she was most likely getting the $50 million ready. Upon receiving the news, the man with the tattoo called his own boss, Sergio, and told him that the money would be transferred soon. Sergio was currently at a casino. The few other high-ranked bosses of the underworld. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on his side today. He'd lost several consecutive rounds, and he had almost no money left. After receiving an update from his subordinate, Sergio threw his cards on the table and stood up. I'll be back in a bit. I have to leave to get more money. I struck a good deal. A man with a cigarette in his hand eyed him curiously. What deal? Tell me about it. Have you heard about Eastern Sea Group's 5-star hotel project? They appointed Kim Cassidy, the president of Haynes Industries, to manage the construction. I gave her a little warning and talked her into giving me $50 million. The man's eyes widened. He almost dropped his cigarette. What did you just say? You threatened Kim Cassidy? Sergio gave him a puzzled look. Yeah, so what? Why are you so surprised, Trent? Trent was the same thug who had recognized Stephen in front of the karaoke place. He was also the one who told the owner to make Stephen the 888,888th customer and waive his bill to only $1. Trent was aware of Stephen's identity, and he also knew that Kim was his wife. Listen, you can't mess with Kim. You should hurry and apologize to her in person. Sergio snickered. While he wasn't the head of Santa Anna's underworld, he and his subordinates weren't weak by any means. Even Trent and the other bosses couldn't look down on him as they pleased.
Sergio, take my advice, Trent said earnestly. Stop whatever you're doing. You might still have a chance to get out of this. Why should I? I've come this far, and the money's practically in my hands already. Oh, I see. Are you telling me this because you're envious of my deal with Kim? Don't worry, Trent. When I get the $50 million, I'll treat you to an even fancier casino.
Trent was taken aback by the way Sergio was twisting his good intentions. He was just being kind and looking out for him. Trent sighed as he watched Sergio run out of the casino. It was a shame he couldn't reveal Stephen's identity. Things probably weren't going to end well for Sergio tonight. Stephen arrived shortly after the special forces hid in the construction site's vicinity. After discovering that he was Kim's husband, the manager seemingly found his backbone.
Mr. Adams, did you bring $50 million? No, I came empty-handed.
The manager deflated, and his short-lived backbone had disappeared. Many construction workers were waiting to come back to work, and coming empty-handed wouldn't put food on their tables.
Aren't you here because you have a solution? Who said that coming empty-handed wouldn't solve the problem? We don't owe them $50 million, so why should we give it to them? I know, but that's the only way to take care of this mess.
Stephen patted the manager's shoulder.
Leave this to me. It's getting late. You and the other workers should call it a day. I can't do that. Miss Kim told us that she would talk things out with the company. All of us are waiting for the construction to begin. You can think of me as Kim's representative. Rest assured, even if work has to stop for a while, you'll still be paid.
When the manager continued to hesitate, Stephen added,
Not leaving yet? Do you want to stay and watch me fight?
Hearing that Stephen was going to use violence, the manager hurried away with the construction workers. The man with the tattoo noticed the commotion. He grabbed a steel pipe and walked up to Stephen.
Who are you? Don't stick your neck where it doesn't belong.
I'm Kim's husband, Stephen said calmly. The man narrowed his eyes.
Looks like Miss Kim was too scared to come back. Where's the $50 million? I didn't bring any money, but I did bring my fists.
The man recoiled in surprise and called out to his underlings.
Get him!
More than 50 people rushed towards Stephen, but none of them could land a scratch on him. No one could even get close. Stephen stared at the man with the tattoo.
Do you still want money?
The man had no choice but to retreat with his underlings. He whipped out his phone and called Sergio.
The situation's changed. Kim found a thug to get rid of us.
I'll be right away with backup. They couldn't lose out on $50 million.
Sergio notified hundreds of his subordinates, and together they rushed to the construction site. The man with the tattoo pointed at Stephen.
It's him. He did this to us.
Are you Kim's husband? You really know how to fight. But that was only 50 people. Think you can take on hundreds of my subordinates? If you surrender now and hand over the $50 million, I can consider letting you go.
I don't think they're a match for my subordinates, Stephen said.
He whistled, and the sound of footsteps and roaring trucks could be heard. Several military trucks pulled up to the site, and one by one, soldiers in uniform, armed with guns, stepped down. They surrounded Sergio and his subordinates and aimed their guns at them. The man with the tattoo and Sergio looked at each other. Red beams of light flickered on their subordinates' faces. The man with the tattoo pointed to the rooftop of a building nearby. Sergio turned and saw a group of snipers aiming their rifles at them. His knees went weak. Just who was this man standing in front of them? He had mobilized the army, and there were even snipers waiting in ambush. Sergio and his subordinates were no match for them.
Even if he had thousands of people on his side, none of them would ever be on par with the military. They were cornered.
Hi, I'm Steven.
Want to know my secrets?
Then download the Pocket FM app and listen to the exciting episodes of Secret Succession now.
Pocket FM. To unlock all the episodes, click the link in bio.